It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
Fine Saturday matinee to you, Andy Nelson.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
The first thing I need to hear from you, the very first thing, as an avid follower and, nay, a fan of the service, is how are you feeling about MoviePass?
You know, I still get my free movies.
But as of today, as reported in the Hollywood Reporter, they have changed the service again. Did you read this? That according to, this is what they said, aligned with, this is a very human, I think, human and rational and warm approach to long-term customers. As of today, aligned with Section 2.4 of our Terms of Use, your annual subscription plan will now let you see 3 movies a month instead of the previous unlimited offering. Now, haven't they done this before?
Yeah, they're pretty much changing it all the time.
They're not good at this. And when I say this, I mean like running a business.
Yeah. They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I'm not using it as much as I should. So to that end, I'm one of the people that's probably benefiting them.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm not watching. I've been lucky to get out to the theater and use their service like once a month. So I don't know. I'm contemplating switching to the AMC plan because at least I know AMC is more stable than MoviePass is.
Well, and you pay a little more for the AMC plan, don't you? Like you
it's
pay
twice as
a
much.
more sustainable kind of approach.
It's twice as much, but
yeah,
I can use it when I go to IMAX or Dolby Cinema, things like that.
Because
whereas
they're
with
all
MoviePass,
AMC
that's when I get stuck with having MoviePass but unable to use it for anything because they don't allow you to go to those specialty screenings.
Yeah, that's lame.
Yeah.
I'm looking. My alternative is because our theaters are Regal. Well, we don't have very many AMC here. So Regal is the big theater chain. And I think they're a little bit new to this game of subscription, like jumping into the subscription service. You get a lot of points. They have a point system. So I've got points up the yin yang and can go see free movies on the points as the part of the Crown Club. But it's so hard to manage. It's really painful to be a part of their service because it's so hard to use.
Right.
So I think they need to figure that out.
Yeah, it's always.
I would love a subscription service. This was the thing that was so amazing to me when I was down there with you and we went to see that movie and we went over to Steve's house and they pulled out like the subscription cups for the drink discounts.
For Harkins,
I mean, all of that is so new to me. Like this is a brave new world. Subscription cups. I would have a subscription cup.
Yeah, you just buy the cup at the beginning of the year and then you use it all year and you just pay $1 to refill it.
Yeah, I have no subscription cups. That's a brilliant idea.
It is.
Subscription cups.
Mm-hmm. And shirts. Well, shirts to get popcorn.
Shirts? You buy a shirt to get popcorn? What's that?
Yeah.
I didn't get a shirt.
Well, now they've actually changed it to just a popcorn pass. So you just have a special thing. Because nobody actually wore the shirts. That was initially
Why
the
would you wear the shirt?
You have to wear a shirt. They were always ugly shirts. And it's like, why am I going to put this shirt on just to get the free popcorn pass? And so people would just bring the shirt. Because we would just bring it. And then they started accepting you to just bring it. And then I think they finally realized, no one's really wearing these shirts. let's just drop that whole thing.
So you buy a little pass and you get discount popcorn.
Exactly.
That seems really smart to me.
It is smart. They're smart.
Like that. They're smart. But see, we don't have Harkins. That must be another local Arizona thing.
It started Arizona local, and now it's in several states. I think Oklahoma, Colorado, all Midwestern areas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple others, but not many.
Do you have any opinions on this Guardians of the Galaxy thing? Guardians 3 has been
put on hold.
Halted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I figured it would be put on hold when you can the director.
Yeah.
Kind of writer, director, creator. Of course, they're going to put it on hold. I mean, what else are they going to do? Now they've got to figure out a plan for who is going to direct it. Does it need to be rewritten? I know some of the actors have expressed disinterest in working on the script if it was still James Gunn's script, out of respect for him. So, I don't know. I'm very curious as to where this whole thing is going to go. And some of the actors, I think Dave Bautista actually said he's been considering, if he might just want to request to the studio that they just write him out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he's been quite vocal on Twitter,
yeah,
and has been quite vocal in, posting and sending to Disney all kinds of stuff about the guy who led the charge to get Gunn fired, to dig up through Gunn's history and sort of recontextualize these early tweets that ended up getting him fired. It's really dark, and it's one of those examples that of social media gone awry. What are you going to do, Disney? You're going to just hire him back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel great pain.
Yeah, Disney's put themselves in a really awkward situation. Unfortunately,
totally.
They acted so quickly on the issue, and now they're in a hard position because people are going to be upset with them whichever way they go.
Right.
And now they've made a mess of this whole thing. And I don't know if there's really an easy way out of this situation that they've put themselves in. Do they just drop Guardians 3 permanently and kill the whole project? Do they bring on a different director? Are they going to have to bring on different cast members? No matter how you slice it, it's never going to be what it was. And I think that they've made a mess of it. And so now I'm really curious, though, to see what happens with James Gunn, because I've heard that there are other studios looking very strongly at him for some other projects, including, I think I heard Warner Brothers was actually eyeballing him to come on board to direct some of their comic book movies. So
that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
And a well-deserved change of tone.
Oh, absolutely. I can't remember which one of their projects it was, but I think it was actually Green Lantern. They thought that he might be an interesting choice to helm a reboot of that series and actually do something good with it.
Talk about a challenge.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's not a challenge. That's it's just a complete tabula rasa. I mean, I feel like there are so many wonderful directors working who could do great work with Green Lantern, particularly because of A, what the character offers, B, what the universe offers, and C, how terribly the last movie has sort of lived in history. It's wide open. Like, the bar was set so low.
Yeah, that's true. I know it's a complicated franchise to work in. So, but I feel like, Gunn is probably a guy who could do something with it. You're right. Other people probably could, but I would be curious about what he could bring to the table with it.
Yeah. Just a little bit of box office opinionating. I'd like you to opinionate for me.
Oh, let the opinionations begin.
Would you do some opinionationing? Kevin Spacey's Billionaire Boys Club earned $126 on opening day.
Yeah.
I think it's up to like 287 for the two-day gross opening day.
Wow.
How do you feel about that? I know you saw it early. You probably were at some sort of a premiere.
Oh, of course. It actually looks like it's listed with global at 1.4 million, though.
All right. Well, people around the world didn't think so harshly.
They don't care so much
They
about
don't really care so much. Oh, wait, he's disgraced? Oh, I get it. We're not supposed to see that movie.
Yeah.
This one, so I don't know. I guess it doesn't surprise me at all. I didn't see it. I think I did it as a trailer pick, and it was not a movie that I was all that interested in. So it didn't surprise me that it didn't do well, but didn't do that well. That was a surprise. What does surprise, a bunch of surprises going on right now. Crazy Rich Asians is dominating, that surprised me. And in a good way. I haven't seen the movie yet, but all the reports I'm getting is that it is not the movie you think it is. And I like hearing that. That sounds like something we're seeing. Have you seen it yet?
I have not, but it's been on my radar.
Yeah. And to you and to us, Happytime Murders marks the worst opening of Melissa McCarthy's career.
Oh, Melissa. Oh, dear.
What do you think about that? I know you've seen it now.
I have. Yes, I have.
And does it feel like that is in alignment with your expectations?
I don't feel like I should say anything. Feel like I should save it for the film board, which we're going to be recording later this weekend.
I know, but I can't be there.
Yeah,
you can tell me, Andy.
No one's listening. Shh. Look, I will say, I was not a fan at all. In fact, I downright hated Peter Jackson's puppet film. I'm blanking on the name right now. The Meet the Feebles.
Mm-hmm.
I really hated it, and I'll just say there's a lot of similarities in this in some of the storytelling with this film.
Oh dear.
Am I being broad enough?
No.
Good.
You're decidedly not. Oh, Andy.
I love Melissa McCarthy. I think that she is always great. And she's always bringing good stuff to a film.
And you're going to stop there?
Gotta save something for the show.
Oh, dear. Okay. Well, it's what you got to do. It's what you got to do.
Yes. Here.
You got any news you want to talk about? That's everything that was on my list of exciting news articles, news items.
Just something that I finally got around to watching, which I enjoyed quite a bit. It was The Great Beauty. Do you remember hearing about this film a few years back?
I do, but I don't remember why.
It was an Italian film. Paolo Sorrentino directed it. It was quite the festival darling. In fact, at the Oscars, it won Best Foreign Language Film.
Oh, I totally remember this. Yes, absolutely. And we talked about it. It was a trailer pick.
Possibly.
Totally was. Yep. Okay. I remember the poster so clearly.
Yes. Well, I had avoided it for quite a while because it just looked so aloof and pompous and stuffy. Mm-hmm. Just the imagery of it looked that way. And but I finally watched it because I'm trying to catch up on my Oscar nominations for Best Foreign Language Film.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, not only was it an incredibly just creatively put together film, just beautiful camera work, stunning imagery. It was completely engrossing from beginning to end, and really quite touching and powerful in the sense of kind of the art of creation and finding that spark. And I had an absolutely glorious time watching it. So I'm so glad I did, because I really didn't want to watch it. It just looked so just stuffy, but it looked like kind of a stuffy foreign art film. Like, when people make fun of foreign films, it looked like exactly what that is.
Yeah, it's the stereotype, right?
But I loved it. So definitely a great film worth checking out. So give it a shot. I would recommend to you and to all of our Patreon supporters who are tuning in.
Outstanding. Where'd you see it? Is it streaming?
No, I rented the disc. The Criterion released it, and I checked it out from the library.
The library. What's that again?
La Biblioteca. Maybe you're familiar with it. Does that help?
Oh, now I get it. Yeah.
Right.
No, thanks for that. Multilingual prod. Let's do trailers, shall we?
Let's. I'll let you kick it off since we don't have any rules applying to who gets to go first, other than you posted first.
Okay. You know what? I'm choosing one that is not actually going to get a theatrical release. This is an Amazon Prime, direct-to-Prime release. And, there was a time when the direct-to-streaming would be looked at with a little bit of suspicion. I'm actually not looking at this one with suspicion. This looks like a big Amazon investment starring Jim Broadbent and Jim Carter and Tobias Menzies and, of course, the great, what's his name with the Chianti.
Good old, what's his name? I love him.
Oh, he's
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins, as
that guy.
That was going to be a great and dramatic introduction. And Anthony Hopkins as King Lear. This is, of course, King Lear, directed by Richard Eyre. And it is, I think every now and again, every several years, handful of years, we need a big, blustering Shakespeare joint, and this seems to be one of them.
What they call them?
That's what it is. That's what it is.
So that's Spike Lee's joints. These are...
It's Spike Lee's Shakespeare's joint.
The next Shakespeare joint.
It is the next Shakespeare's joint. So this King Lear as a story has a very warm place in my heart. When I was a kid in high school, a couple of friends and I, friends the show, DC Barnes and Trent Adams, we had a little film company, and other high school students would, quote, hire us to make video adaptations of their school presentations. And we had been tasked to create a movie of King Lear starring this sort of learning team of students who needed to tell the story of King Lear in short form. And so we totally invested in King Lear. And so it is a place that's very close to my heart. And I think that seeing Anthony Hopkins in that lead role, knowing that it's a role that's been important to him for some time, is going to be really, really fun. I think highly of the cast. I think highly of the direction, and getting all these people on screen for this particular property, and watching Hopkins go bananas. Hopkins goes bananas is going to be a great thing to add to the Shakespeare collection. So it's already cruising over the 6-star IMDb rating, and so I think it's going to be worth checking out. What'd you think?
I think Hopkins Goes Bananas is actually his follow-up to this, with an orangutan as his starring companion.
Totally.
So I am very much looking forward.
Left Turn Clyde.
Very much looking forward to that one. King Lear is one of Shakespeare's projects that I really do enjoy quite a bit. I think there's a lot of really just beautiful stuff going on in the particular story. My favorite adaptation that I've seen is probably the one that Peter Brook directed. I think it might have been, I don't know if it was a TV, like a made for the BBC type of TV movie sort of thing, or if it actually did get a theatrical release. But I've just found so much power in Peter Brook's version. Paul Scofield plays Lear in that one, and I've always loved the imagery. It's just really powerful. Likewise, this one looks really, really good. I just love the tone of it, and actually reading a little bit about the plot makes me even more excited. Set in an alternate universe, 21st century, highly militarized London. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, this, and it just looks great. The casting, I mean, with Emma Thompson and Emily Watson as the two older daughters, they look great in this as well. I do find this to be just an absolutely compelling story, whatever variation it is, whether it's Kurosawa or Peter Brook or looks to be this one. So yeah, it's a nice pick. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad. It hits the 28th of September. I think it drops on Amazon Prime, certainly in the US and UK. That was it was Trevor, was it Trevor Nunn? That was the one that it was the Royal Shakespeare production version of Lear with Ian McKellen that was the one that really stood out for me, I think. I don't know if I saw that Peter Brook version that you mentioned.
Yeah, I watched it in a class, like a literature class in college, and we watched the professor had us watch a couple different variations of King Lear just to kind of compare the storytelling styles. And we watched that one, and then we watched, I think, the more famous Orson Welles version. But this one, by far, I found to this day, I mean, it's for me the most affecting version that I've seen, even more so than Ran, Kurosawa's version or anything else. And did you ever see 1,000 Acres? The kind of it was a novel. It was a movie based on a novel that was kind of a reworking of the story. It came out in the late 90s, had like Michelle Pfeiffer, Jessica Lange. I think Jason Robards was their father? Yeah, Jason Robards.
Oh,
you ever see that?
Interesting. I don't think I did. But I'm looking at it right now. King Lear set on a farm in Iowa.
Yeah.
Man, this is right at the 6-star rule on IMDb.
Yeah, I remember struggling with it a little bit. I didn't think it captured as much of the storytelling that I wanted it to. It seemed a little more of a kind of a weepy drama, but it is an interesting interpretation of it. And I think if we ever do a King Lear series, it would be an interesting one to throw in just to see how it can be revisioned.
Yeah. The novel for 1,000 Acres was actually written by Jane Smiley, who is one of my very favorite writers. And I have not read this book, but I interviewed her for she joined me as a guest speaker in a class I was teaching on another one of her works. She's a fantastic writer in that sort of Americana space. And
well,
so
you definitely should read it.
Highly recommend it. I highly recommend her work, and I need to read this book.
Yeah.
Nice pick. Okay, now it's your turn.
Well, I am going for a trailer that just played for me when I went and saw Happytime Murders, which looked quite interesting. It's called A Simple Favor, and actually the trailer is marketed as from the darker side of Paul Feig. Or Feig, or Feig. I never remember how you say his last name.
Feig. It's Feig.
Feig. I know we've been getting in trouble
says it right.
with antagonistic listeners for not pronouncing people's names right, but
yeah.
I'm sure that's how Paul likes it.
It's Paul
Feig. Right. So, A Simple Favor is the latest in his oeuvre, and it looks quite... it looks different for him, and it got me pretty excited because I do think that Paul has had his ups and downs with his projects. Let me get some water.
Mm-hmm.
I really I loved Spy, and I loved Bridesmaids. I enjoyed The Heat. I thought it was kind of fun. I didn't mind Ghostbusters. I know a lot of Ghostbusters fans completely love it or completely hate it because they love the first one so much. But I was never really a big fan of the first one anyway, so I didn't think that they could screw it up that badly. And so, I enjoy it well enough. But I think that he's somebody who's done some interesting projects that I've enjoyed. And seeing him kind of take this darker path with a really interesting story kind of got me excited. This is a story about a mom, Stephanie, whose son asks for a play date with his friend from school, and his mom happens to be Emily, and the two women are played by Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, and the story kind of sets up this kind of odd relationship. Anna Kendrick, not the sort of person that is that popular even as an adult, and Emily is very kind of high styling, it seems. But it seems to be there's a darker side to Emily, and she calls Stephanie over one day to come over and help her with something. And when Stephanie shows up, Emily's just gone, and it turns into this disappearance of Emily, and Stephanie's trying to help figure it out. But as she tries to figure out what might have happened, things kind of get darker and more twisted, and it makes for something that I think looks very interesting. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't expecting something like this from Paul, but it got me pretty excited. And I think the actresses both look great in their roles. What do you think of this one?
Oh, I totally agree. And it's so funny. Blake Lively can I just say about Blake Lively? She's one of those actresses that I don't know. I didn't watch. She was on that show. What was the show that she did?
Gossip Girl.
Yeah, Gossip Girl. I was not a Gossip Girl fan. I enjoyed Age of Adeline, but in terms of like following, Blake Lively, I haven't been a big Blake Lively fan, I guess. But man, I love her on social media.
Oh, really?
Is that weird? She's so great. And of course, her husband is Ryan Reynolds. And together they make I can't believe I'm going to say these words, a social media power couple. They are so funny. It is more entertaining to watch how they interact with each other on Instagram than some of their movies. But this is one of those examples where her personality is something that draws me to want to see this movie. Like that strikes me as that's unusual for me, that it is somebody's social media presence that actually makes me want to follow their work. I think this movie looks really compelling. I think the two of them, you're absolutely right, together. It's an interesting combination of personalities. I think the problem that at least that I've heard from a lot of people who had a problem with Ghostbusters is that it didn't need to be remade that way. It was just kind of a gender swap. If there was a character in the other movie that was male, now it is female, and if it was female, now it is male, and that seemed like a kind of a too much of a low-hanging fruit adaptation. And this movie looks like an original story with people, insofar as the gender doesn't matter so much. It just is a story that is going to be a story about interesting women doing mysterious, thrilling things. And so I really look forward to this movie. I think it's going to be great. And you should totally follow Blake Lively on Instagram. She's the best. And her sense of fashion is off the hook. She wears crazy stuff. Did you see her at like the VMAs? She's amazing.
Oh, I just thought you meant her sense of fashion in the trailer, because it also exists there.
It also exists there. Yeah, no, I think she does her own styling. She's amazing. She is fantastic. So,
well, it is based on a novel by Darcy Bell, and it's her debut novel. So maybe that also helps give it that a little more of an original twist.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
something.
I look forward to it. Yeah,
definitely something to be excited about. This one is going to be hitting theaters in mid-September for most of the world. Looks like here in the USA, September 14th, and it'll go through the end of September through most of the world, except October, November for Poland, the Czech Republic, and Germany.
Let's do the list, Andy.
Ooh, the list.
You weren't here last week.
But you guys did an admirable job of coming up with ideas.
I think we did okay. I thought we did okay, I should say, until I started coming up with my list.
Yeah, you guys did make it challenging.
I will say. This was not easy.
Yeah, the movie last week was Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And for that, the option that everybody voted on was Subterranean Communities.
Yeah.
Nobody voted for Cinematic Warlords, and a few people voted for End of the World movies, but that would have been the easy one, I suppose. Yeah. Subterranean Civilizations, a little trickier.
Here's what I thought. As people were voting, I imagined each of their inner monologue going something like this. Warlords, End of the World, Subterranean Civilizations. Well, the guys sure didn't think this through. Click.
And here we are.
Yeah. So since you weren't around, would you like to go first?
I would, Pete. Right. Thank you so much. So for my first choice, I am actually going with the third of a trilogy, and an oft maligned trilogy because it dropped in quality.
Let me just say, I'm almost sure this is already a steal.
I'm sure it is too. I really do enjoy the Matrix Revolutions, even though most people hate it. I think Matrix Reloaded is a very frustrating film. Frustrating because it's long. It just never seems to end. I like a lot of stuff in it, but for me, The Revolutions was the one that I enjoyed much more, even though it gets a little nonsensical with the the final explanations, all that exposition we get coming from the I can't even remember his name, the man in the computer. When we go into his room, it just gets
the architect.
The architect. There you go.
Yeah,
it gets a little silly, but you know what? I enjoy so much of the other stuff in here that I end up forgiving this film for a lot of those sorts of issues.
You can forgive a lot, mostly because there is actually a character in the movie called Deus Ex Machina.
I honestly, after the first film, when it was announced that it was a trilogy, I felt like the Wachowski brothers had just written themselves into a corner. No matter how you sliced it, it was going to be a tricky trilogy to put together in a way that was as pleasing to people as the first film was. Because the first film was just so great because of everything going on in the real world, quote unquote, or our world, the one that is the Matrix. And I knew by the time you got to the end, you were going to have to spend a lot of time in the real world, which is the underground world that that everybody is actually just a battery in. Right. And, I was like, yeah, it's going to be fine. It'll be a big battle and I'll be okay with that. I did really enjoy what they did, though. And despite some of the club dancing and stuff that they do down in Zion, which I did find a little irritating, I actually really enjoyed the underground community that they had created here. And I do enjoy that great big battle that they have down there. I think it's visually quite stunning. So that's my first pick, The Matrix Revolutions.
I'm going to avoid picking The Matrix Reloaded. Although technically that's where we meet Zion, and the Nebuchadnezzar has that awesome docking scene that I like so much. So that'll be a bonus pick since it was a steal. I will start with an oldie but a goodie. Is it? Maybe it's just an oldie. That is THX 1138. This was George Lucas's first, and it is a movie that I saw because I felt like I had to, and there are a lot of people who really like it, and I sometimes wonder why. It takes place in an unnamed underground kind of underground, just sort of industrial chic complex, and it is all about the story of people who have really serial number names instead of real names, and they rebel against the rigidly controlled society and culture. And Robert Duvall's in it, and Donald Pleasance, and you kind of got to see it for all that stuff. I found it a little bit tiresome, but it does fit the bill. So there you go. THX 1138. Are you a fan of THX 1138?
Not really. I do find it, I find it an interesting watch. It's not anything I love, but I think in context of the world of sci-fi, it's definitely worth checking out. It's a story that's interesting. It's nice to see George Lucas kind of at his, early kind of more arty sci-fi sort of storytelling before he goes into the kind of the big budget blockbuster world. Yeah. But I don't know. I guess it was just something that I felt might have been a little more heady than it needed to be. But I still like it. And actually, I never watched his. I know he went back to that one also and did his own special version with additional CG and some creatures and all that sort of stuff. I have never seen that. I heard that it's not an improvement, so I think if I am going to go back to it, I am probably going to go back to the original version, if I can find that one.
This is the thing. I don't think you can find it. I don't have that one. But I will say it was a lateral move to my memory. Like if you didn't have strong feelings about the original, you won't have very strong feelings about the changes that he made in the Lucasification of it.
Yeah.
So But it's one of those things. You should see it because you need it in your catalog. You need to at least be able to talk about it with other nerds.
Right, exactly.
So, there you go. What's your next pick?
For my next choice, I'm looking at Guillermo del Toro and, excuse me, an early film that he did, 1997, Mimic, which, it's a film that I think people don't enjoy that much. But in the world of Guillermo del Toro, I find that I end up liking it a lot more than a lot of his other films.
Isn't that because people, there are so many people involved with this movie that just suddenly faded out? Like, what happened to Mira Sorvino?
Well, yeah, but then you look at Josh Brolin, you're like, oh
yeah.
I don't think it's that. I just think that it's just seen as kind of a B-level horror movie that didn't do a whole lot before he really had a chance to, find himself, and all of a sudden became this auteur that everybody wanted to make these great films. But and granted, he didn't have director's cut with the film, and I know he was unhappy with it, and I know he released a director's cut sometime in the last 10 years, although I've never gone back to see that one, and I hear he's much happier with that one. But I still enjoyed it. I thought it was actually really interesting, and it dealt with these kind of cockroaches that were in kind of the underground subway world of New York, which is kind of this whole other world in and of itself with these people who kind of live down there. And but people are getting these diseases from these cockroaches. And Mira Sorvino is this entomologist who's trying to study these, and she's using this genetic engineering to create a breed of cockroach that helps get rid of these bad cockroaches that are killing everybody, or I think mostly it's children. But as it turns out, this breed that she has created evolves, and they turn into these gigantic cockroaches that are like human size. But I really love about them that they actually stand and they look like they're mimicking people. I just found that so off-putting and creepy. And they all have to go, the whole clan has to go underground to find them and stop them and rescue the people and all that sort of stuff. And they meet some people who spend more time underground than probably they should. And I guess that's my stretch for calling this an underground civilization. Although I think you could say the cockroaches are the civilization.
Oh, I thought you were totally leaning on the cockroaches. Yeah, I was going to give it to you for cockroaches.
But yeah, I don't know. I found this to be much better than people said. And so I think it's worth checking out. My second choice.
I totally agree with you. Also, because Norman Reedus is in it.
Yeah, it's his first film.
Of his first film. And I misspoke. I should not have said it, because look at these other people. F. Murray Abraham, you already mentioned Josh Brolin. Charles S. Dutton. This was a 90s era Charles S. Dutton, which is before he was in things like What Lola Wants. Like, he was awesome in the 90s. Giancarlo Giannini, come on.
Yeah.
What is going on with why this movie is not more popular? It's a 5.9 on the IMDb scale. People go see it and at least give it a 6.1. We got to get it to a 6.
I want to check out the director's cut now and see what I think of that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my second choice.
Not
what about
a
you?
Steal.
Not a steal. All right.
I love that. I'm going to go animated, Andy, and I'm actually surprised that I got to this one before you did.
That's because I was saving it for the finale.
I bet that you are going to say Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Is that where you're going? No?
No.
Then you're going to say Fraggle Rock.
If only they had a feature film, I would have.
This is the 2001 film, Atlantis, the Lost Empire. It comes from Disney. They started production on this one right after Hunchback. And I know Hunchback is high on your list. This is circa the same era as that stars Michael J. Fox. Jim Varney, weirdly. Let's see. Claudia Christian is in it. James Garner is in it. John Mahoney is in it. Leonard Nimoy is in it. I mean, it's got some great guys. Oh, David Ogden Stiers is in it. So they've got some fantastic voice talent. And it's a movie that weirdly sort of landed in this same kind of cultural space as Treasure Planet, this kind of weird, like not quite Disney enough Disney movie. When they were making that transition from hand-drawn animation to like leaning heavily on CG, and this is one of those movies, but they do end up busting through this wall inside of a volcano, and they discover Atlantis, which is not underwater. It is underground, a whole civilization of people, of the Atlanteans, carrying on with their daily buckle shuffle underground. And it's cute. It's one of those that my kids really liked, and when they were of a certain age. And so we definitely have this one in the collection, and it's a 6.8 on the IMDb star scale. So there you go.
It's not a bad animated film. I actually, there are a lot of things about it that I do like quite a bit. But I do have some issues with it. This is one that was kind of in that era that kind of stopped the hand-drawn animation, because I think Roy Disney was really championing this and Treasure Planet, and they didn't succeed as well at the box office as people were hoping they would, and because of that, Disney used that as, see, nobody wants to see hand-drawn animation anymore.
Right.
And that's kind of led to the transition to all CG films, barring The Princess and the Frog, which was when they tried to come back and say, no, people, it's the storytelling. And then it didn't do it very well. And they said, see, people only want to watch CG animated movies because people are dumb.
People are dumb.
People are dumb.
Oh, people.
So, but it's an interesting film. I do have a lot of problems with it, but I think Disney did a lot of interesting stuff with it. Though the thing that weirdly frustrates me more than anything with this one is that, and it's such a silly thing to be get irritated about, but in the world of Disney and Disney princesses, the fact that Kida is never recognized anywhere as a Disney princess, I find absurd. It's like, come on, just put her up there. Let the people have their princess.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. 1,000 times yes.
Yes.
You're right. Okay.
I mean, they do the same with the girl in the Black Cauldron, but maybe that one might be for the best. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
All right. What's your number one?
My final pick, which I'm glad I do get to bring up. You did not steal it. You said animated and made me a little nervous. This is an animated film I watched fairly recently. It's from 2013. It's a Japanese sci-fi film that Yasuhiro Yoshiura wrote and directed, and it's called Patama Inverted. This was, it wasn't a perfect film, but I found the world so unique and exciting. It's definitely one you have to buy into because it's kind of fully nonsensical, but I really kind of just, I loved the visuals that it allowed throughout the film. Basically, it's a story that takes place in the future when scientists are trying to get energy out of gravity. And what happens, though, is it screws up the gravity on the planet, and tons of people and houses and everything kind of just flies off the planet into space. So we now are
That's
later
awesome.
than that, and there's this whole society of humans who now live underground, and their gravity is all reversed. So their up is our down. And the story focuses on this young girl, Patama, who is there. She's always exploring and trying to find resources and everything. And she's in these tunnels, and she's freaked out because she sees a figure walking on the ceiling toward her, and she escapes and finds that this is somebody who's still living on the surface, and finds out that there's a whole society of people still living on the surface whose gravity is normal. And so she ends up going to the surface, and like she has to grab onto things. Like she grabs onto this boy who helps her, and because from his perspective, she is floating up into the sky. From her perspective, she's falling down into the sky. And the film is constantly shifting these perspectives between people and how things are viewed. and it makes for such an exciting visual experience, and it just kind of goes from there. But it's like I said, it's not like my favorite of films, but the world it created was wholly unique and completely fascinating to watch. So that's my final pick, Fatima Inverted.
I've never seen it, and it sounds fascinating. It's on the list.
Definitely check it out. It's a fun one. It's a fun one. My kids also enjoyed it, so
that's awesome. All right. Well, my final pick is, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a Tom Cruise protest pick because there's so much talk about Mission Impossible right now. And I feel like this movie has been kind of unfairly forgotten. And that is 2013's Oblivion, which I really enjoyed. It is the story of this vet in this post-apocalyptic society, and he's stationed on Earth to guard these. I don't remember what the whole gambit is for him. He's guarding some energy resources and repairing battle drones. And so he's got this fancy future tower that he lives in, and it's all very, very cool. And then he comes across Morgan Freeman and the Scabs, or Scabs, the
Scavengers. Well, they're like scavengers.
Yeah, they're the scavengers, and they live in their underground bunker, the Red Rock Mountain Complex bunker, and that's what I'm leaning on for their underground civilization. I really enjoyed this movie, directed by Joseph Kosinski. I thought it was a really fun vision of the whole sort of post-apocalyptic future. I don't remember why, why when I talk to people, like, I don't remember what their main argument is for why they didn't like this movie, but it's a 7-star on IMDb, so clearly somebody's liking it. It was originally based on a graphic novel that I have not read, also by Joseph Kosinski, who did the original story. But, Tom Cruise, Morgan Freeman, Olga Kurylenko, they're all really strong in this movie. And, Nikolai Coster-Waldau is in it too, which is also fun to get a little bit of a Game of Thrones push if you need it between seasons. So
I also really liked this movie. I think a lot of people complained that it had it took some of its story direction from Moon, that was a sci-fi film that we had talked about on the show, and
which was also great.
Yeah, also great. And this had kind of a similar vibe to it, and I think some people just felt like this was using some of the conceits from Moon. It's hard to not really it's hard to not talk about it without really kind of spoiling both films, but it pulls something that seems very familiar, and I think a lot of sci-fi fans just accuse this of being too blatant to rip off. And I can see the point, but I think that everything was done in a fresh enough way where I really had no problem with it, and I actually really enjoyed this film too. So fie on those people, Pete. Let's enjoy the film and live with it.
We shall, together, you and me, to the end
in our happy world.
So that's it. It's a good list. I'm happy with this list. It was harder to come up with. I had a couple on my backup list in addition to Fraggle Rock. Which was one, and I only didn't pick it because I think I've picked it before, which is Demolition Man. This is why I was getting it confused, because they're not the Scabs, they're the Scraps. The Scraps resistance group lives in an underground city underneath Demolition Man. And Metropolis, which we've already talked about. There's the whole underground thing there that we've talked about. And I couldn't remember, in the first Total Recall, is that underground or is it just under a dome?
It's just under a dome on Mars.
Okay, that's what I couldn't remember if there was a part of it that goes underground. So that was it. Oh, and Blast from the Past, because that's the movie I watched on my wedding night. But it's not really a civilization. It's just a family living in a bunker, but they were civilized.
Oh, that's funny. And it's I mean, there were a number that I couldn't put on the list because we've talked about on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would happily have included The Descent. I would. I thought about that one, but it felt a little bit like they weren't civilized. It's still a civilization. There's mamas and papas and babies.
Okay.
And I can't remember, there were a couple others that I thought about putting on my list, but we had discussed, so I took them off. The only other one that I had that I really kind of had as a backup was The Island.
I did too. Film. You're right. Yeah, okay.
But because I found it to be a really interesting film that was a fantastic sci-fi world that I felt should have been done on a lower budget minus Michael Bay. I felt like the context of that unique story in Michael Bay's hands just was too much. But
But were they underground?
They were, wasn't the island, wasn't it like an underground place that, because when he comes out of it, it's not like they're on the surface.
I guess you're right. I
feel like they came out of the ground.
They came out of something to get to the water. Huh.
Well, just to get to, and the second half of the movie.
Yeah, second half of the movie, right, when they're on the run.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, that was what I couldn't remember. If they were just, again, under a dome, that was kind of if they were just sort of secluded,
right? Or
if they were underwater. So I'll take your memory for that. So that's where we were. That's where we were for this particular movie, and we are going on to another Apes movie for this week's list.
Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. So Space Monkeys.
Well, I think that we talked about it a little bit in the Discord channels, but I kind of half-heartedly brought up the idea of movies that had been, where the movie or movies had definitively ended, and they found a way to retcon it and bring it back. That could certainly be one. It might make for
absolutely.
It might make for a difficult list
challenge.
Again.
I guarantee you they're going to pick that. Whatever it is, probably. They're going to pick that. It doesn't even matter.
Films that were retcon sequels for a film that had a very clear ending. That's what I called it.
That's yikes. Okay. What else do we have?
Well,
I'm doing Steve's trick where I'm going to the IMDb keywords, and there are things like tragic event or cigarette smoking.
Well, let's see. We've got government, like Senate hearings.
Senate hearings.
So we could always go to the exciting world of Senate hearings. Cinematic Senate hearings.
Cinematic Senate hearings. I think they might pick that now. All of a sudden.
That sounds painful. I don't know if we should put that down on the list.
Okay. Animals wearing clothes.
Well, we've got talking animals. Well, we've put that on the list before, but this time, let's see. We've got what do we have? We have circuses. We have we should totally do like clothing montages.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Clothing montages, but I can't think of any other movies in which there's a clothing montage with the animals wearing the clothes.
No, it doesn't have to be animals wearing clothes. It can be, there's tons of options of
great fashion montages in film.
Pick any wedding movie, and inevitably you're going to see, the wedding dress montage.
Yep.
It might be low hanging fruit, but we could certainly do that as an option.
Movies with reel to reel tape recorders.
How about no, that's way too difficult. I was going to say 70s doctors, or doctors who, didn't pay attention to, responsibility with patients, i.e. smoking around them and such.
Smoking and letting pregnant women drink.
That's way too difficult.
It could just be terrible doctors. It's just the worst doctors. Cinematic bad doctors.
Cinematic bad doctors. Well, he's not really a doctor, though. Like, I think that doesn't work.
Well, he was a psychiatrist.
That's like a government employee.
Yeah, but, his role was, like, his training was to be a doctor.
You just want to do cinematic bad doctors?
Well,
you just want to throw it on there, don't you?
It is what it is. Movies with great truth serums.
We could do bad doctors. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Bad doctors. Bad movie doctors.
Or we're not talking about like killer doctors, are we?
So we're limiting bad doctors now?
Well, I mean, bad. I guess it's fine. Bad. He's evil no matter how you slice it, right?
That's right. That's right.
So we're doing films that were retcon sequels for a film that had a very clear ending, bad movie doctors, and wardrobe montages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, if you can find the Triple Crown, a movie with all three of those, please let us know.
Oh, that's going to be a very special movie. Very special movie.
I can't wait. Good pick.
I've put the list up in the SatMat or the Show Talk channel over on Discord. So get your votes in, everybody, and it will make for will make an interesting discussion next week, no matter which way we go.
Can't wait. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the show and helping to make all of this good stuff possible. We really appreciate it. And tell your friends, tell your family. Join us, give us a few bucks, and join the Discord. We'd love to have you there.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Hello, Stephen, and goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.